are back on the air. Sans 1, Mark Milano. Alex Hanowitz will be filling in. I will be taking over as host for the week, filling my big boy pants. Alex, I can see from the grimace on your face, week 2.
Sans 1, Mark Milano. Alex Hanowitz will be filling in. I will be taking over as host for the week, filling my big boy pants. Alex, I can see from the grimace on your face, week 2. Sans 1, Alex Hanowitz for the week, filling my big boy pants. I will be taking over as host for the week, filling my big boy pants. Alex, I can see from the grimace on your face, week 2.
Alex, you there?
Yeah, hold on.
All right. We're going to try this again.
Are we good now?
I think we're good
Oh
now.
my god, dude, that echo just broke my eardrums. All right, let's roll.
Take 2. You know what? Actually, that is a perfect beginning to the show. I would just like to
How
throw
the
this
night has gone for the two of us so far because Mark isn't here.
That is a perfect beginning because, that intro was probably about as painful as week 2 was in daily fantasy sports.
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
But it couldn't possibly get any worse.
You're absolutely right.
You know what I was thinking about? Okay, so tell me if you sympathize with me on this, all right? When I see a really bad loss by one of my favorite teams, I'll give you an example. When the Bulls lose to the Heat in the playoffs, all right? And I'm like the biggest LeBron hater you will ever find. I don't look at the news. I don't watch ESPN. Like, I don't go to any sports websites. I won't look at my Twitter feed. I won't look at my Facebook for like 3 straight days when something bad happens to one of my favorite teams. Was that not this week? Wasn't that week 2 in daily?
Similar story. Until Scott Van Pelt started doing SportsCenter because he's a fellow Marylander. I hadn't watched SportsCenter since the Super Bowl ended.
Right.
It's one, and I just couldn't deal with it.
You can't, right? Like, that's what happens. The Patriots win the Super Bowl, the Heat win the title, and you know what you do? You turn off the TV, you don't load any web pages, you turn off Twitter, like you're done. That's how I felt this week watching the NFL games. I was like, I'm done. Sunday night, when Jordan Matthews had 0 points at the end of the third quarter, I turned the TV off. I closed every single window on my computer where I had a fantasy football game up. Right where I had my scoreboard up, I closed every single window. I turned the TV off. I went and found my girlfriend and a beer, and I said, okay, sports are over for the week. Let's go do something. And I didn't look again until Tuesday morning. I was like, all right, how bad was it?
Luckily for me, the week of death didn't end poorly for my Jets because we beat the Colts. Let's go.
Yeah, and Brandon Marshall actually won me a week. No. I was pretty happy about that.
God, I cannot believe you gave him to us for like a 5th round pick. That's horrid on your part. I'm sorry. It's great for us.
To be fair, I mean, we only lost 1 round because we got him from Miami for a 4th round pick. But
this is true. Good point.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy to have
if you watched the show last week, here's the deal. Alex and I know nothing. We have absolutely no idea what we're talking about.
Actually, all right. So the ones that like I was
Carson Palmer, I'm taking that one.
The ones I was iffy on did well, and the ones that I was like, do it. Nah, not at all. Like, I know you weren't here for Thursday, but our number 1 cash play of the week was Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, you almost had to use him, right? Because
here's the thing: like everybody used him. Like the scores this week compared to the week before were very different. They were much lower. Everybody sucked this week. So like, we're sorry it was a bad week, but like, get over it. We still know more than you. If you don't want to listen to us anymore, you don't have to. We're trying to help. And honestly, we couldn't even help ourselves this week. So
yeah, that was the crazy part of week 2 is, if you had, what would an ideal week 2 lineup look like? It would look something like Ben Roethlisberger, right? Maybe a David Johnson at running back.
D'Angelo Williams.
Travis Benjamin, D'Angelo Williams, Crockett Gilmore. Like, you know what this is? This is like the former D-League team, right? Like, that's what a week 2 winning lineup looked like.
Dude, like, I think Brandon Marshall and Eric Becker were both like top 15 receivers this week in DraftKings.
You sent them with Fitz, you're winning the tournament.
It shouldn't happen. Like, they're both great. I'm not But like with Fitzpatrick as the quarterback, like they shouldn't be both in the top 15 conversation at any point. I mean, I would love it if it happened every week because that means we're not losing games, but it shouldn't happen.
Right.
But it shouldn't.
And I think that's sort of the point is, no matter how much we can prognosticate and how much we look at our value picks, how much we may like a guy, you just really never know. You have a perfect matchup on paper with the Saints going up against the Bucs, and you get nothing from that game. You get nothing from that game. You don't get a productive running back. You don't get a productive receiver. You don't get a productive quarterback. You get nothing from that game. And every expert, you can look at any article you want from last week heading into week 2. Everybody was saying play Drew Brees.
Yep.
Right? So that just goes to show you that no matter how much of an idea we have as to what's going to happen, you simply can't predict the future. So, if you are a fan of the show, if you do watch the show, that's something to remember is, really, we don't know. We give you our ideas. We give you our plans.
If we could predict the future, A, we probably wouldn't be doing the show, and B,
exactly.
we'd be millionaires. So,
right. I'll tell you right now, about 50% of my DraftKings lineups were destroyed by Brees.
Yeah. Every week I usually only throw in one cash lineup and just go all out on it. And Brees cooks Coleman. Thanks.
Right. And then I was about to say, and out of the remaining 50%, probably another half of those were destroyed by Coleman. So it's like
Coleman didn't really destroy it. Like,
right, because you didn't
Cooks more so.
Yeah.
Cooks killed me more.
But here's the good news, that as bad as it gets, there's always a silver lining. And the silver lining is this. Now we have more information. We know a little bit more. We've seen another week. And one thing that's really important, one thing I've learned from playing fantasy football for almost 20 years now, I think like 16th or 17th year in one of my leagues, is that the biggest danger, the worst thing you can do is to overreact.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing holds true for daily fantasy sports. You have to take it all in stride. You have to take it with a grain of salt, and you have to say, okay, how does this change the landscape? So today, as we're going through our value names, that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at what do we know now? What new information have we got? How does this change the landscape? And we have to really be cautious not to overreact too much to what we saw in week 2. To me, doesn't week 2 just have this feeling of just like a huge blip? You know what I mean? Like a huge blip on the radar?
Absolutely. It's like it wasn't real.
Right. Okay, with that in mind, let's get right down to it. We've got quarterbacks up first. So, Alex, the first name on your list is somebody who actually won me. The only tournament winnings, the only cash game winnings that I had were with Carson Palmer. I had a few Palmer Fitzgerald stacks last week.
You looked good last week. He didn't even look good last week. He threw like what for $180?
Yeah, something like that. I don't think he broke 200. He had 4 touchdowns. And you remember what I texted you on Friday or Saturday night? I said, Bears can't guard the big receiver, right?
No way.
I have a Palmer Fitz stack.
Dude, that's the only thing I made money on this week was a Palmer Fitz stack in a tournament. That's it.
And you know what? If you would have stacked Palmer Fitz and David Johnson,
God, dude.
Right? I mean, that was week 2. What fantasy analyst would have told you last Tuesday, here's what you do. You stack Palmer Fitz and David Johnson and you win the tournament.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
So what do you like about him this week? Week 3, he's still pretty low, 6,600 on DraftKings, 8,100 on FanDuel.
I like the matchup, San Francisco, right? Sorry, I don't have everything in front of me because I'm doing the hangout thing. But yeah, I mean, they got shredded by Big Ben. He's been productive both weeks against different types of defense, beating them both ways, either by yardage or just being efficient in the red zone. He's got a great supporting cast. Like, if David Johnson gets more touches, that's even better. Just give him touches.
Right? I mean, he has touches.
Chris Johnson, sit your ass on the bench like you should have done in New York last year. Do it now. Just save everybody the trouble. Don't keep torturing everybody. And I mean, he didn't even have to involve Fells last week. Did Floyd do anything last week? I don't think so. I think it was just Fitz, Brown, and I don't even know. But it was the Fitz show with him. So I don't know. He looks good. He's looked good for the first 2 weeks. And like I said last week, this team is a Super Bowl contender with him under center. They have the foundation. Their line could use some improvement, but Iupati's going to come back eventually. But they're good. They're a good football team. They control the clock, and Carson Palmer's not going to make mistakes like he used to. This is a different Carson Palmer than we've seen when he was with the Bengals or with the Raiders. He has more of a game manager mindset, which is allowing him to hit bigger plays. So I love him until he has a like an absolutely awful matchup.
Right, and that this week is not that. I mean, if you saw what Pittsburgh did to San Francisco last week, I mean, you have to have a good feeling about Palmer. And the price is right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It hardly changed at all, particularly on DraftKings. I think it only went up maybe $100. So I love Palmer this week. I think he's a great play. You know, he's got John Brown, as you pointed out. He's got Fitz. He's got David Johnson. If I recall correctly, David Johnson has scored 2 touchdowns. One of them was on a pass. This week, I think it was on a toss, right? His actual touchdown was a run. Yeah, but they're going to use him out of the backfield. He's going to catch passes, and he's a threat to take one to the house at any time of the game, anytime during the game at all.
Yep.
So I like Carson again. What about Rivers? Rivers is an interesting name. You've got him on here. He's at 6,400 DraftKings. He's a little cheaper than Palmer in both. FanDuel 7,700. What do you like about Rivers this week?
I like that he's going up against Minnesota, who hasn't really shown me that they can stop the pass yet. I mean, they played Detroit is a dumpster fire. Like, I hate saying it because I have Abdullah in pretty much every league, and I love Abdullah, but that offense is bad. That defense is a lot worse without – we didn't think it was going to be this bad without Sue and Fairley. We thought they'll be okay. They're not. They're not okay. They're in trouble. They really are. And, like, it is early, so you don't want to overreact, but it is definitely something to monitor, and it could be a trend. It might not just be a fluke. It looks like a trend. And even so, like, Calvin still had a very, very nice day. They didn't look good in week 1 at all. So I think they're beatable, and Rivers is a better quarterback than Stafford is, and he's got more weapons. Not better weapons, more weapons. He has Woodhead, Stevie, Keenan, Ladarius, Malcolm Floyd on the outside too. So I love him this week. He's been incredibly consistent, and he's always been really good early. He's always good early, and then he kind of fades down the stretch as they start running the ball when it gets colder. But in these early weeks of the season, every year he's a stud.
That's what I was going to say is the one trend that you see with Rivers seemingly every year is you want him in your lineup. He's like the Martellus Bennett of quarterbacks, right? Like, you want him in your lineup until like week 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And then you find somebody else. But up until week 7 or 8, if you play him, you're getting some points. Another thing I like about Rivers, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, I would say Rivers is really more of like a cash play. He's one of those quarterbacks, especially earlier in the year, where he's got a really low floor. Right? Is that where you like him, or do you like him more for tournament?
Well, I mean, he has a higher floor but a lower ceiling, I think is what you meant to say. Yeah, I think only like once or twice in the past 5 years he's thrown for 4 touchdowns and massive, massive yardage. He'll either do massive yardage or a lot of touchdowns. So he'll never really combine both of them. It's a weird how it always happens, but it'll either be like 438 yards and 2 scores or like 248 yards and 4 touchdowns, which kind of doesn't really scream tournament play upside. But he's got a safe floor. He loves this offense. He is now the all-time leading touchdown thrower in San Diego, passing Dan Fouts last week. And he's got Woodhead. Like, I don't think people understand the importance of Danny Woodhead in this offense. He keeps Rivers so comfortable. He's got his guy on 3rd down in the red zone he can rely on. He knows if nothing's open for him, he's got Woodhead, and it allows him to make more chances because they have to play in on Woodhead.
And that's been the hallmark of not using Rivers in the past. If you think about it, the argument against Rivers has always been mistakes, right? He'll kill you with a turnover. He'll kill you with a late turnover. He just will put up a dud every now and then. But when he's got that safety valve, you know, I would even consider in a way Stevie Johnson sort of a safety valve too.
Absolutely.
Nice possession. Yeah. All right, we got a lot of names on this list, so I'm going to keep moving on and breezing through. You actually have one here which I'm sort of a little lukewarm on. So it's Alex Smith playing Monday night in Green Bay, correct? In Green Bay?
Yeah, this is the only reason I included him. One, he is, I think, I think his FanDuel price is stupid low. That doesn't make any sense to me. He's the same price as Brandon Weeden, and Brandon Weeden's thrown 7 passes this season. So
let's let everybody know the price is at 6,000 on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. I'm still a little cold on him, so warm me up. Tell me what you're thinking. What are you thinking?
The only reason that I see this as maybe a value play, definitely not a cash play, but a tournament play, is because I think that Green Bay is going to throw on them. They're going to throw a lot. They're going to do well. Either Eddie Lacy or Starks is going to run pretty well, and they're going to be down, and Alex Smith is going to have to throw the ball. That's it. It's the only reason I wanted to talk about him as a potential, because he's so cheap. You can fit other guys in your lineup because they're going to be down and they're going to need to throw. Look at what Colin Kaepernick did against the Steelers. They were down real early. He's a terrible quarterback, threw for like 360 or 358. He's not that good, but he piled on all those points in the second half being down.
Garbage time numbers count too, right? I guess my concern here is I look at this game on Monday night, and here's sort of where I'm going with this, and here's why I'm a little cold on Alex Smith. I see this game being two head coaches who are going to want to run the ball. I see both coaches coming into this game have good reason to want to run the ball, whether it's Starks or Lacy. Green Bay is going to want to control the clock. If you look at their game plan, how they attacked Seattle, which is a good NFL team, what did they do? They came out and they ran the ball. Even when Lacy went down, they ran the ball, and they ran the ball some more. And Andy Reid on the road is going to just be handing it off to Jamal Charles all day, right?
Yep.
So I guess I agree with you. This is a high upside play, but I also see this as being a fairly large downside play too. What I'm concerned about here is I think Alex Smith this week has a pretty low floor going on the road in a game with a lot of running.
Don't touch him in cash, but if you really want to take a chance, only in tournament.
All right, fair enough. Here's a name where I actually like a lot. Okay, so I like this play. I like this guy as an ad in standard fantasy leagues too. You want to talk about the exact opposite of an Alex Smith. He's got a very good floor, very high floor, and a high upside. Give me some Tyrod Taylor. What do you think about that?
You think that this guy has a high floor, but his floor is awesome. Like week 1, they barely did anything. He had pretty solid day. Then this week, they got their asses handed to them by the Patriots. He went off playing catch up because he's going to run and he's going to throw the ball. That's it. He's got all the I said this, I've said it all season. This guy has Michael Vick upside. He does. And we're starting to see it. And I still think there's like that one game where everybody's like, oh shit, this guy's for real. And it's coming. I don't know if it's this week. I don't know if it's next. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. This guy is for real. And I hate saying that. Him, Tannehill, Brady are all in my division. They're all for real.
You know what I think of when I think of Taylor? I think of two things. Number one, I think of like what Colin Kaepernick should be, right? Not a lot of mistakes. You got the running game. His yards on the ground is going to get you some solid points every week, and he's decent through the air. He can throw the touchdown. He can throw the long ball pretty well.
That throw to Sammy, I know it was in garbage time, but that was a nice looking throw.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's not. People think he might be a one-dimensional player, and if you watch the games, he's really not. So I view him as like a poor man's Russell Wilson, or maybe another way to think of it is like what Kaepernick should be, a safe play, and any given week he can win you the week. I like him a lot. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. That's real cheap for a quarterback. I mean, that is really inexpensive territory. And
I like my next one a little bit. I like my next one a little bit more for this week, especially.
Go for it. You got up.
So after Tyrod, we have Mr. Soulless Ginger, Andy Dalton, who has been
my favorite nickname in all of football.
Absolutely lighting it up this year. Lighting it up. He lit up the Raiders. He lit up San Diego. He's throwing everywhere. He's got weapons again. He was what was he? Top 5 quarterback 2 years ago. Last year he had a bad year because he lost all his weapons. Guess what? He's got weapons again. AJ Green's healthy. Eifert's a stud. Gio Bernard's catching balls out of the backfield, looking amazing again. Got held, went to the bench because of a fumble. We'll get to Bernard later, but that offense looked real good. And San Diego's a good football team. They are.
And did you see, you know what? Let me tell you something. I forgot to get my eliminator pick in. So I'm in a league where we have an eliminator pool, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 250, and I got to be somewhere, and I take a quick look at the late games. Who do you think I win with?
Cincy.
I wish.
Dan,
I look up and I see Oakland, and I see there's no way Oakland's winning this game.
Oh, you picked the Ravens.
The Ravens are not going to be 0-2. So I snap off a Ravens pick. I text the guy real quick. I said, "Put me in, get me in for the Ravens." Miserable game. Look, you know what? You know what I came away from that game with? The Ravens are not the same without Suggs.
No, they're not good.
No, they're not. And I think this is a team. I think actually some people may think Ravens and they may think good defense. They may think matchup to avoid. That's not true.
This is why I like having you here, because I can go on a rant and Mark would just stop me. The AFC North, other than the Bengals, because the Bengals are just, they look good. That division played nobody last year. They played both South divisions, which means they played a bad Falcons, Saints, Panthers, Bucks team, and they also played the Colts, the Titans, a bad Texans team, and the Jaguars last year. Those were half of their games. They dominated in those games, all four of those teams in that division. Now they have the hardest schedule. They play the NFC West and the AFC West. Those are not easy matchups other than the Raiders. But for Baltimore, it seemed to be tough. But regardless.
Well, that tells you, that gives you a lot of info. That tells you what you need to know about Baltimore.
Right. Like these teams, I mean, we'll see what Cincy's got because right now they look legit. Steelers, their defense still
very suspect. Yeah.
The Browns are terrible. I don't care who's at quarterback. They're not good. They played the Titans. I said last week the Titans aren't good. People just overreacted to Mariota in week 1. This is a bad division.
We just talked about you can't overreact. Right?
This is a bad division, and people are like, don't you can't overrate schedule. Yeah, yes you can when the divisions we're talking about, from switching to the easiest teams in the league to switching to who you're switching to. Those are the kind of before season starts schedule things that you can look at and be like, I'm a little worried. So other than the Bengals, this division scares the hell out of me. I don't trust them.
Yeah. And that's I think that's why we're recommending Dalton this week, is we think he can light him up. The problem with Dalton is he's always a candidate for a bad game. But on the other hand, he's also always a candidate to just destroy a team. And I can see that happening this week. I think Green's going to have a nice week. I think Eifert, Marvin Jones is going to get on the scoreboard. And if all that's happening, Andy Dalton is putting up fantasy goodness. Not to mention you got Gio Bernard coming out of the backfield.
But one thing I will say, Dalton always takes a little step down in divisional games, especially away. So if you don't recall last year at Cleveland, that was not a fun Thursday night for people. But I still think it's safe because he's been outstanding, and I don't see how they're going to stop that offense. I just don't.
Right. Okay, our next name on the list, again, a little questionable here. Apart from the obvious, what do you like about Brandon Weeden? I mean, he's got the starting gig. His price is very low. He's $5,200 He's $6,500 on FanDuel. Now, look, before we get into him, we should mention, in case you missed it, today, the Cowboys pulled the trade of the century. They made a deal. Yeah, the blockbuster deal. The Cowboys acquired Matt Castle. I don't even know. Did they even give anything up for him, or did they just call?
I think Buffalo gave them a pick to take him.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, did they just call Buffalo and say, hey, we'll take Castle off your hands. You don't have to give us anything. You can just send him in his suitcase, and we'll pick him up at Dallas-Fort Worth. Is that what happened?
Yeah, we'll also send you a check for the flight.
Right. So okay, Dallas traded for Castle today. In the deal of the year, the move of the century. So Matt Castle probably not going to start this week. Probably not going to play, I would imagine.
Probably I think he's just there to back up Weeden if Weeden just sucks. But this is why I wanted to bring up Weeden. He went 7 for 7, 73 yards. He looked okay at the end of that game, and he looked like he had some rapport with Mr. Tyrance Williams. And hopefully, because he got to work with Bryce Butler this week, maybe they'll also be able to work it out. So a lot of these receivers, because Dez is out, he's probably been able to work with guys like Bryce Butler, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, Gavin Escobar, not more so than Romo, but he's had the opportunity to work with those guys, so he's comfortable with them.
Honest question, though. I mean, is this a case of how bad the Eagles were last week?
Oh yeah.
I mean, really?
That absolutely could be. They like Chip Kelly experiment's not going so well right now. This is scary.
It's
And
really
guess-
not. I mean, they
guess
should be
where
better.
they're going next week.
Remind me.
Go. Jets.
Oh, that's right. They're playing the Jets. That's
Let's
right.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's some must-watch television.
I'm so ready because I thought we were gonna get our asses kicked when the season started because I didn't know how good we were, and I even if I thought we were good, I thought this was like one of those games where the Philly machine is just gonna keep rolling. They look good, and all of a sudden, we are going to get to Sam Bradford if he makes it out of this game healthy.
I was about to say, is this one of those Leonard Williams meet Mr. Bradford games? Is that what we're thinking?
I think it's Mr. Bradford meet Mo, meet Leonard, meet Damon, meet everybody on our defense because we're coming.
You know, as long as we're on this game, our next name is a name I love. In fact, for our viewers, right before the show, I was sharing with Alex my first lineup that I created on DraftKings. And in that lineup, I'm playing a Fitzpatrick, Brandon Marshall stack. Fitzmagic is only 5,100 on DraftKings this week, 6,800 on FanDuel.
No money. Like, how are you fit? Like, after the – all right, one thing I will say, because the prices came out before the game started, that his price didn't go up or down. I love seeing the prices come out on Monday nights because anybody playing on a Monday night that could have seen a huge price bump won't because the prices are already out, which is awesome. So guys like Marshall, Decker, I don't know if Decker's going to play yet. He hurt
right,
his.
That's a concern. That's actually one of the reasons why, though, just for the record, that's why I'm playing the Fitz Marshall stack is if Decker's out, I think.
All goes to Marshall. Because Owusu got hurt too. So it's basically Kinsey and Nunwa, who I also like to call quinoa, Marshall, Ivory, and
Can you make vegan delicacies out of him? No?
What?
Can you make vegan delicacies out of him? Does he transform into like a vegan?
All right, so they were for some reason he got brought up on the Dynasty League football podcast and they started calling him quinoa and I can't get it out of my head now. So every time I see him, I call him quinoa. Like, all right, this is completely irrelevant, but because Mark's not here, he's not going to tell me to shut the fuck up. Jason Morrow, one of my friends, whenever we used to watch football games together, like last year, every time Jason Morrow comes on the screen or makes a catch, he goes, he has small hands. He has small hands. So now every time I think of Jason Morrow, I think of like these tiny, like little, like baby hands trying to catch a football. And every time he drops them, like baby hands.
Yeah, small hands. Yeah. See, I think that's highly relevant. So more of that, please. Yeah, look, so we're in agreement on this one, right? We love Fitzpatrick this week.
Yeah.
I think the stack is with Marshall. He has a tendency, Fitzpatrick, to zero in on one receiver, to lock in on him.
Oh, he's going to have at least one turnover. I promise you that. But he could have 2 or more touchdowns, and he'll throw for 200 yards, which at 500, cool. Like, or 5,000, like you're fine in cash or the upside in the tournament.
That's what I was going to say. I think this is another one of those plays where it's a very legitimate upside play. Look, let's just say for a second the Eagles actually are the Eagles this week. This could be the highest scoring game of the week. And I don't say that tongue-in-cheek. I know the Eagles just put up a dud. But I believe there's going to be some points put up on this one.
I'm going to disagree immediately because the Jets are not going to be in the highest scoring game of the week ever.
You know what? Chan Gailey has been really conservative. He's been running the ball a lot. He's been ultra conservative. Honestly, though, I have a feeling about this one. Call it a gut feeling, whatever you want. I think this one puts up the points.
Hey, as long as we win it, I don't care how ugly or how fun it is, just win the game. So,
speaking of the ground and pound, Chan Gailey, brilliant strategy. Let's move into running backs.
We're fine, dude.
On the list.
Half an hour to do quarterbacks. We got to get moving.
Yeah, we got to go fast. All right, we're going to go through these running backs. Ready? Okay, running back lightning round. Mark's not here. We can do whatever the hell we want, okay? So
Great.
Running back lightning round. Chris Ivory, go.
Going to be healthier than he was this week because they didn't really use him. So he'll have time to recover for next week, and he'll be the Ivory we saw in week 1.
All right, here's what we're going to do on running backs. You give me the argument. I give you the contrarian argument. Then you get a final word, okay?
Fine.
Yeah, why not? Here's the guys, I just want to say this is a professionally produced, very structured show, okay?
This is the most structured. The most structured.
Here's the contrarian argument. Bilal Powell, even when Ivory was not injured in week 1, 12 carries, right? 12 carries. He's cutting into the workload. Ivory has limited upside. He's going to get limited touches. He's got a groin injury. What's going on?
Bring it back. All right. Guess what? Well, Powell got most of those in the last 2 drives because it was 31-10. Moving on.
Giovanni Bernard. I see. Lightning round. Gio Bernard, 4,700 DraftKings. Love that price. 7,200 FanDuel. Jeremy Hill probably couldn't catch one of those Nerf balls if they threw it to him right now. So, all right, make the case for Gio.
139 yards and 3 catches.
Jeremy Hill's still alive. That's the contrarian argument.
Yeah, but I think Bernard has established himself and is going to get more touches now, and he's still not outrageously expensive.
I love him a lot more on DraftKings than FanDuel. I think the price is a little high on FanDuel at 7,200. I think at that price range on FanDuel, you can find a lot of players who I like more, including the next name, $700 cheaper, 6,500 on FanDuel, almost dead even with Bernard, 4,600 on DraftKings. Devontae Freeman, lightning round, go.
Love Devontae Freeman. All right, last word on Gio, because you didn't give me my last word on Gio.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No cash. Don't play with cash.
As I said, very
don't
strong.
play with cash. Tournament only. All right, Devontae Freeman. No Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman looked good last week. If you combine their stats from last week, he would have had 2 touchdowns. He got one himself. Devontae Freeman got one. And I think they would have combined for not a lot of rushing yards, but Devontae also caught 4 passes for 34 yards. So for DraftKings, that's wonderful. Anytime you can get 4+ catches out of your running back, you're probably going to be hitting value most of the time, especially with a touchdown. So Devontae Freeman with all of the touches most likely this week. The Falcons are good. They are a very good football team, so get used to it.
I hope you don't have a final word because I have no contrarian argument. I love Devontae Freeman this week. I think he's a great play. I
was hoping he would be cheaper, but I mean, I guess because the news of Tevin Coleman being out before the prices came out affected it. Because I think he would have been 4,000 or less if the news didn't come out earlier or later.
Right. But I have nothing. I have no contrarian argument. I think he's a great play, which of course means that he's probably going to fumble 3 times and be benched by the end of the first quarter. Okay, Shane Vereen.
Well, it is Shanahanigans.
Right. Okay, so Shane Vereen, lightning round. What do you like about the Giants passing down running back? Go.
Oh, I thought you were about to say, what do you like about the Giants? And I was going to say nothing. But Vereen has 12 catches this season. He had 8 last week. He had 4 the week before. He's going to catch the ball. Anytime your running back catches the ball consistently, you can play him in any format on DraftKings.
I think that's fair. I think the argument is, number one, the Giants are terrible. Number 2, the matchup is not amazing. I do not like the matchup, believe it or not, with Washington. I think
I took out all the Thursday plays and I left Vereen in. Oops. So if you're playing Thursdays, you can play Vereen, but if not, ignore it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Moving along. You want a final word on Vereen, or shall we continue?
No, he's a Thursday game. We skip him.
Deion Lewis, 4,200 on DraftKings, 6,700 on FanDuel. I can probably make the case for you myself in one word.
Catches. God. Yeah, catches. He had
prices.
6 catches, 98 yards, 40 yards rushing on 7 and a touchdown. And he was still in the game after fumbling the ball 2 weeks in a row. In a Belichick offense, this guy Belichick must love this guy if he's fumbling this often and staying in football games. Loves him if he's doing that.
You know, what I look at this as is this is like, the Patriots of old, where any part of the offense that you can get a piece of for cheap, you want to use it, right? I mean, this is a high-octane offense. They don't care. They're crushing people. They're putting up numbers against everybody. I'm with you on Lewis. I think more on DraftKings. I love the really low price. I think he's a good play there. Real quick, I saw a comment in the chat. Dallas is stopping all running backs, and I completely disagree. Week 1, they had to play the Giants. The Giants went into self-destruct mode. Plus, the Giants also really share the ball. If you add up the 3 running backs numbers, the 3 running back stats.
Plus, they probably would have had an extra rushing touchdown if Rashad Jennings had actually decided, or not his decision, but he had ignored the coach's advice or Eli's advice and got in the end zone.
Right, exactly. So
those are a dumpster fire right now. So
Right. I'm not worried about the Cowboys. They are not stopping all running backs. Week 1, if you add up the Giants' numbers and you give them that late touchdown, Giants running backs did very well. Week 2, Philadelphia is a dumpster fire. You want to talk about a real dumpster fire. They have no offensive identity right now. Nothing is working. Philadelphia stopped themselves. So I like Freeman, a running back, getting all of the touches. I think he's going to have a good week. All right, moving along. Continuing our lightning round. After Monday night, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, really? Frank Gore?
He's
Really?
still cheap. He's still cheap. He actually looked all right. I did want to talk about him specifically.
4,500 on DraftKings. Let's give him the price. 4,500 on DraftKings, 7,000 on FanDuel. Cheap on DraftKings, middle of the pack in FanDuel. All right, what do you like? Make the case.
He looked pretty good. He probably, other than Moncrief, was the best skill position player for the Colts last night. He broke off. His first 4 runs were very impressive, if not for, I think it was 3 penalties on those 4 runs. He looked good. He looked spry. He looked like Frank Gore. And to especially do that against our defense that is just dominating right now, we're dominating people. For him to be able to look that good, I have more hope that he'll break out of his slump than another guy like a Lamar Miller who's not really seeing the ball.
Okay, contrarian argument. Colts look terrible.
Yeah, but they don't have to play the Bills or the Jets now. They get to play the Titans.
They get to play the Titans on the road. They'll probably put up some touchdowns. Again,
probably?
I think
Probably. You don't have
definitely put up some touchdowns. My big concern is that one thing that you talked about was you want to play running backs. Any running back who's getting you 3 to 4 catches a game is a start, right? Because of the format. Gore's only had 3 catches all season. They don't really use him as that pass catcher. That's not sort of what their offense looks for. That's my big concern with Gore.
He's somebody that he's got when it comes to pass catching running backs, I'm like, yeah, okay, he can go in there if he's cheap. But Gore is a guy that we thought when the season started, he was going to be a guy that was going to be priced $7,000 every week. He's going to dominate the touches on the goal line, even though he fumbled one away, which he would have had another touchdown for. Right. He is going to see most of the rushing attempts, and he's still going to catch a few balls. So 18 touches, 100 total yards, and a touchdown, that's not ridiculous. And for 4,700 against the Titans, where they're probably just going to run the ball at the end of the game, yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll buy it. I heard you guys started my segment, Who's Your Bay, last week.
Yes,
if I was there on Thursday, my Bay would have been David Johnson. And only 4,000 on DraftKings, 6,000.
All right. Last week in the chat, I was getting ripped on every time I made a comment, and the last one he made was about David Johnson, and he's like, CJ is Arian's boy. David Johnson's not going to do anything. And he took, as soon as he took that kickoff, I was just like, David Johnson can't play today.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. David Johnson's first 3 touches in the NFL were all touchdowns.
All touchdowns.
Right? So what does he do other than score touchdowns? Well, he catches passes. He's on. Is not Arizona the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL?
They are. I believe you are correct, sir.
He's on the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. He scores touchdowns. He's clearly a better running back than Chris Johnson. And you know what? If they gave him enough touches last week to get in the end zone, I have to believe he's earned more. It's only going to get better. It's not going to get any worse for David Johnson, and he's still really cheap. I know I'm supposed to be giving a contrarian argument, but look, this guy's my bay.
Yeah, the only reason that he's not seeing more touches than CJ is because Arians is a little hesitant to give the rookie the load, and he's slowly working him in, and he can't slowly work him in anymore because he's so effective. So while they're still early and they have these kinds of matchups where they can pretty much dominate, it seems, give him play now so you can decide if you need him for the division games like Seattle, St. Louis, and this one also San Francisco, but they're not the same San Francisco. But still, get him ready to go in divisional games. Give him that feel of the divisional games so he can go forward with that.
All right, we got to stick to the lightning round. Lance Dunbar, 3,200 DraftKings, very cheap, and 4,900 FanDuel. Is the argument again catches here?
Yes, the argument is again catches. The only hesitation I would give is that Different quarterback. No, you just don't know how Whedon's going to use his skill position players. But
honestly, I'm pretty risk averse, which sounds very weird to say because I do a lot of I play
cash game play, but 11 catches in 2 weeks.
Even in tournaments, I make a lot of bizarre plays sometimes. So it's a weird thing to say that I'm risk averse because if you see some of my lineups, you might say, really? And the answer is yes. So, for example, what if I made the statement to you, I'm staying away from all Cowboys this week?
I don't hate it at all, but I'm just stating some of the options if people really believe in this offense. They're cheap and they could have good days, but I wouldn't touch them in cash.
Atlanta under Dan Quinn is an underrated defense.
Oh, they're good. They are genuinely good, and they don't have good. This is also another thing that you missed. I started bringing up last week before you came on. This defense with Quinn is solid. They don't have the pieces yet, and they'll get them. They have some of them, like Vic Beasley and some other guys. Sorry, I'm sick if I sound nasally. They are a good defense. They have the scheme to make them successful. And this is a team that's going to keep improving as the year goes on. And with this offense, this team is scary.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm staying away from all Cowboys. But again, the case for Dunbar is catches. All right, Jimmy Starks, Eddie Lacy goes down, destroys my keeper league fantasy team where I get precisely 0.9 points for him for his 9 yards. Eddie Lacy's ankle, it's questionable. It's up in the air. He may go this week on Monday night. This is a Monday night game. One thing you and I talked about last week personally in our text was, hey, DraftKings lets you switch players out up until kickoff. So in a DraftKings format, you could play James Starks. The problem is who you're going to replace him with for $3,000 in the flex in the Green Bay Kansas City game. Maybe a Richard Rodgers, maybe one of those type of guys.
You could do
Starks
that.
Is a risky
the problem with that is that you have to play him in the flex, which means he's your third running back as opposed to a second man. So I wish we had. If we get more information early in the week that Eddie Lacy, we find out by Sunday that Eddie Lacy isn't playing on Monday night, play James Starks. He's a very good running back.
I would venture to say, if Lacy is out, Starks is a must play. What do you feel?
Play in cash and tournaments. In both formats, right? He's a better Benny Cunningham of week 1.
He's a better Benny Cunningham, and you know what? Even when Lacy's healthy, he gets his fair share of touches.
He's a good running back.
He's going to get if Lacy's out, he gets every touch. He gets every single running back touch if Lacy's out, right?
Correct.
On one of the best offenses in football. I think if Lacy's out, Starks is an absolute must play this week. So keep an eye on the news. I don't care the price. I really almost don't care the price. You could inflate James Starks' price by a ton. I'd still
probably $5,000. I'll play him all day, every day.
Right, and at $3,000, it's. Remember what you used to say last year. Thank you, DraftKings, for free money.
Thank you, DraftKings, for free money. Please.
Okay, that takes care of our running backs for week 3. Let's do an even faster lightning round. You know that sort of lightning that
we can slow it back down a little bit if we can go lightning round with tight ends. I do want to talk about some of the wide receivers, I think.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so
we'll see which ones we're talking about.
Well, here's an interesting one to start with. Dante Moncrief, 4,800 DraftKings, looked very good. 6,000 FanDuel. You know, I guess my only real argument is the Colts look out of sorts, but Moncrief does not. So, what do you think?
Everybody just pump the brakes on their being scared of the Colts offense. They played the Bills and the Jets, who, in my opinion, are 2 top 3 defenses in the league this season. I know they got shredded by the Bills got shredded by the Patriots, but the Patriots do that to everybody. You can't tell me that they're not a top 3 or 5 defense just because they got shredded by Tom Brady. You can't. And the Jets is good. The way they look right now, and any quarterback is going to struggle mostly, especially one that he's in his 3rd year, 4th year now. They were showing it during the game. How many different offensive linemen has he had? He was getting pressure the whole game. He didn't have a chance to throw. So you get him against the Titans, mad after the first 2 games. I saw his press conference. He was angry. He was not happy about the way this offense is going, and that's not going to continue, and it's going to start in the division where he hasn't lost a game in the division. in the last 2 years. So he's going to go off against Tennessee, and everybody's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's Andrew Luck. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, actually, I tend to agree with you. And another thing in his favor, if you did watch the Monday night game, Hilton looks hurt.
Yeah.
He played. He made a
also
couple of nice plays. What's that?
He had Revis on him, and the nicest play he made, he got hurt on.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Even he played. He made a couple of nice plays, but he did not look 100%.
No.
And if that continues, I could see a big Moncrief game.
You want to know how I know that he wasn't 100%? Because after the first quarter or two, Darrelle Revis was like, I'm going to go guard somebody else because you're just not 100% right now.
Right. Okay, next wide receiver.
There was no reason for Revis to jump off Hilton to guard Moncrief and Dorsett other than Hilton is not Hilton right now, so I'm going to go be more productive somewhere else.
So the next name I've got on my list is Michael Crabtree, although
People.
Right, Crab People. 4,600 on DraftKings.
Time out. You've seen this episode, correct? Of South Park?
Yes, with it wasn't it the little Cartman got the floaty things, right?
No, it was like they went on a reality show and the host it was the Queer as Folk guys, I think. And they were crabs, and it's crab people.
I definitely remember the crab people. The problem is I watched most of the South Park I watched in college thoroughly intoxicated. So,
dude,
I've forgotten a lot.
That show is so good. That show brings people together.
It does. Hey, did you see, best South Park episode? Scott Tinnerman Must Die.
Favorite episode of all time. I have the video of him licking the tears off of his face saved on my phone. I can watch that once a week and not even care. Like I could spend 20 minutes a week just doing that and be completely happy.
I feel like that is what I want to play for whoever I beat in my fantasy league championship, right? Like, do you like it? Do you like it, Scott?
You like it, Scott? You like it?
I call it Mr. and Mrs. Tinnerman, Chili.
Tears of unfathomable sadness. Oh, yummy, you guys.
We've gotten way off the rails here, but all right. Michael Crab People.
Crab.
For the Oakland Raiders from South Park, Colorado. Not worried about Joe Hayden treatment? You think Hayden goes on Cooper this week?
Yeah, Hayden's definitely on Cooper, and I think Cooper might even beat him this week.
He made Peterson look pretty silly.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
All right, but honest question, though. Are we really putting Crab People in our DFS lineups? On the road, at Cleveland.
The only you want to know the reason I'm bringing this up? Because one of our followers tweeted me and Mark over the weekend, Sunday morning, and said, what do you think of a Carr Crabtree stack? And I laughed. And I specifically said, Carr isn't a good quarterback. He's like, he's got potential. He's getting better. I was like, I have no doubt that he'll get better, but right now he's middling at best, and Crabtree is his second option. And what did he do? Was it 7 or 9 catches for like $110 and a score?
And a touchdown, yeah.
Get out of here. Like, he looked like Michael Crabtree. But then again, pump the brakes, though. The Ravens look really bad. Really bad. So
right. That's what we talked about earlier, is people still think the Ravens are a good defense, and they're really not.
But the Browns are a different kind of bad because their offense is so bad they're going to get off the field quicker. It's going to give Oakland more of a chance. I think this is one of those games that Oakland's in, and they score points. So the ball is going to find its way to Michael Crab People. So I wouldn't play him in cash, but you can definitely play him in a tournament. Just if you're fading Cooper and Hayden being on Cooper, he has to go to Crab People.
The other thing is that the price is right. The price is definitely right. 4,600, very cheap option. 6,000 on FanDuel for a wide receiver, that's cheap. And the exact same tier, the exact same price discussion tier, Terrence Williams. What if I stick with my assertion here?
Save who's your bay for Thursday. We can't talk about the same tiers.
Yeah. Terrence Williams is not my bay. I'm going to stick with the same assertion and say, not only is Terrence Williams not my bay, but I'm sticking with my no Cowboys this week theory.
Isn't he next on our list anyway? So we might as well just like warp our way into Terrence Williams.
Alex, it's almost like you're doing the show with me here. Yes. In fact, he is next on our list. So
he is next on it. Well, I did make the list, so I hope I would remember that. The
so
only
why is Williams better than Crab People?
Why he looks better?
Does he not have like 8 legs and pinchers? Is that the statement here?
This is part of it. The other one,
put him in a stew.
The other one was that touchdown pass that Whedon threw to him.
Is there even crab stew? Is that a thing? Do people make crab stew, or did I just pull that out of nowhere?
I feel like I should know that because I lived in Maryland for so long, but I have no idea.
I've never lived in Maryland, and I'm pretty sure there's no crab stew. But all right.
Well, I guess since I've never heard of crab stew and I lived in Maryland for so long, there must not be crab stew. I can ask, but I don't care enough. Anyway, Terrence Williams, the only reason I would recommend him is because of that touchdown pass from Brandon Whedon. They looked pretty good on it. Catch and run. Terrence Williams can do that. He's a big play guy. Like I said,
there's no defender anywhere near you. It's pretty easy to score a touchdown.
This is true. This is also true. But I just feel like there's some chemistry with Whedon and Terrence that people aren't really aware of.
Then Matt Castle comes in the second half, and that blows that to hell.
Yep. So don't play Terrence Williams in cash, people, until we know how Whedon looks.
Yeah, he's a tournament play. I think like Crab People, he's a tournament play. Save your Crab People for tournaments. Okay, here's a name I love. And in fact, here's a name I would play over Crab People and Terrence Williams. He's cheaper than both.
Wow. We're saving that for Thursday. Keep ruining it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe he's my baby. But maybe not.
You can play him in cash before you name him. I got to blow my nose. Give me a second.
All right, Alex is blowing his nose, and I'm talking about Stevie Johnson. I think he's a good play this week. You know, one thing Alex and I already talked about, Stevie, part of the Chargers, Rivers has early season, has success. I like Stevie Johnson a lot. He's a professional receiver. He's a veteran. And in this case, the thing I like most about Stevie Johnson, whether it's DraftKings or FanDuel, his price is only $4,300. I mean, if you look around that price range in that tier, it's hard to find players. What it's hard to find, you have to remember you're playing in a half-point PPR and a full-point PPR format. And in the 4,300 tier, it's very hard, or the 5,900 tier on FanDuel, it's very hard to find players in that range who catch as many balls as Stevie. Am I right, Alex? I mean, he gets yardage, he gets touchdowns, and he catches a lot of passes. So I think he's sort of an obvious play this week. And what am I missing? He's
a stud. You're not really missing anything. Like him and Woodhead are the reason that Rivers looks so good so far. The guy, I don't really know how else to say it. I keep saying it, but
you know what?
He's good.
He's an Eddie Royal replacement, but better.
Yeah, he's so much better. He's so much better. He's not all right. Another one of these little conversations I had with Mark that you missed. So I'm going to catch you up real quick. Stevie Johnson is the consistent version of Eddie Royal, but better. So like Royal will go off like 2 or 3 times a year with Rivers. Stevie Johnson will go off probably 7 out of 10 games, get a touchdown or a big receiving game, and he's a safe until he goes above 5,000. I'm probably just going to play him every week because I feel like he can just get open. Like we said, he's playing for the best quarterback he's ever played for, and Phillip Rivers, this might be the best receiver Phillip Rivers has ever had also. So the two of them together, they look so in sync already. They're both veterans. They both know they want to be in the playoffs. They want to win. They're on the same page. They've been on the same page.
That's a good word. I think that's a good word, locked in, right? That's sort of how we feel about him. Locked into our lineups, locked in with Rivers, locked into the game.
Yep.
He's a good play. Not a good play, in my opinion. I think everybody's going to use him, and I think he's going to bust. He's had 2 big booms so far. We've gotten a lot of questions. I don't know if you've been watching the chat. We've gotten a lot of questions in chat about this guy, and now we've gotten to him. Now we're going to answer him. The price for Travis Benjamin, $4,200 on DraftKings, $5,600 on FanDuel. I think he's going to be hugely owned. He's going to have a hugely owned percentage.
And
I'm going to be one of the ones who doesn't own him in any lineup.
You ready for why?
3 catches in week 1, 3 catches in week 2. So not a high volume guy. Johnny Manziel hitting him on the long ball.
He's Johnny's belly. He is, though.
He's Johnny's Bay.
The only positive I have to say about Travis Benjamin right now, and the hurdle. The hurdle was awesome. But you want to know why he's going to suck this week?
I'm listening.
Josh McCown's going to start. Put it on the board right now. McCown starting this week.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't really think it matters who Cleveland starts at quarterback.
No, it does. It does.
Even if right now they came out and they ruled out McCown today, and they said Manziel's a starter no matter what, I still wouldn't play Benjamin.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I still think that they need Manziel to start to see what they have for the future because they're not a team that's going to win. The only reason you have Josh McCown is to try to win. You're not going to win.
So play Manziel. I totally agree with you from an NFL perspective.
Because he looks good enough. He looks good enough to at least competently attempt to lead the offense. At least better than he did last year because he's got all this just the nonsense out of the way for the most part. We don't really know, but it seems like he's chilled out a little bit.
Well, there's not a whole lot to do in Cleveland, so that's on his side. But
I got LeBron, your boy.
Yeah, my favorite player. Anyway, okay. So, what do you think of the statement? Even if Manziel plays, I'm not playing Benjamin. I'm staying away. How do you feel about that? You think he's a play?
No, I'm thumbs upping you. I'm not playing him. But we had to talk about it because he's so cheap and he's had 2 huge weeks.
And people are going to be tempted to use him. A lot of people are going to be tempted to use him.
If you want to play him in a small tournament, like a $3 tournament, and put him in 1 or 2 of your lineups, have a blast. We're not going to recommend it. It could work out for you, but you're not going to be blessing him.
A lot of people are going to use him. I really think he's going to have a high % ownership.
Oh, especially in tournaments. He could be like 20-25% owned in tournaments this week.
Here's a name I like. Leonard Hankerson, Atlanta Falcons, 3,800 DraftKings, 5,700 FanDuel. I like him. Why do you?
Because he basically shut Roddy White out of the game last week. I don't think did Roddy White. He had 1 target last week, and Hankerson had 11.
White had 0 catches.
White had 0 catches on 1 target, and Hankerson had 6 on 11 with a score. That unless the Giants and I missed it, we're completely game planning Roddy White out of the game, which doesn't make any sense to me because Julio Jones is the one that needs to be game planned out of the game. But NFL, please don't do that. Please, please, please don't shut Julio Jones out of any games. I'll cry. They shut off the wrong receiver. Hankerson's healthy, looks better than Roddy White. Roddy White's dealing with a myriad of injuries and issues.
I think that's the thing is White is the name people know.
Yeah.
He had a good week 1. People expected it to repeat. I think week 1 was the anomaly. I think week 2 is more the norm. And I think as we see the season progress, we're going to see Julio, Hankerson, White. That's going to be the order that you want to play him in.
You want to hear the scary thing? I think by week 10, Hardy's getting more targets a game than White. Justin Hardy. For those who don't know who Justin Hardy is, he's there. They picked him in the draft this year. I forget it was a third. I think it was a 3rd round or a 5th round. Good possession wide receiver, going to play the slot, which would make Julio and Leonard the outside guys, Hardy in the slot, which is going to be the future. It's just if Roddy needs to stay healthy and get more involved. Otherwise, he's just going to be left behind in this offense because they're a good football team and they need to win now. And if Roddy's not helping them do it, they're not going to play. He's not going to play at all. I know he moved to that organization because he was the most consistent wide receiver for a long stretch of time when Matt Ryan first came into the league and a little before that. But he's not the same Roddy White. That's years and years ago. He's not even in the wide receiver 3 conversation right now. Besides his name, that's it.
Here's a very interesting name, and it's weird to make the argument against him that I'm going to make. Rashard Matthews from Miami has had 2 pretty nice weeks so far.
I'm so mad about it.
He's 3,800 on DraftKings, 5,700 on FanDuel. You know, really the best argument I can come up with against Rashard Matthews is matchup. He's playing the Bills. A pretty tough defense. Are you using Matthews this week? And if so, how? Are you using him in a cash game or a tournament setting?
No. I want him off the Dolphins.
Well, then why did you put him on the list?
I don't want him on the. I want to talk about him because I don't understand why he's playing. Why is he playing? Like, I understand Devontae Parker's still coming out, but why is he playing over Devontae Parker? Why is he playing over Kenny Stills? Why is he playing over Greg Jennings? Well, I know why he's playing over Greg Jennings. Greg Jennings can't catch the ball anymore. But Kenny Stills and Devontae Parker are better receivers than Rashard Matthews. They need to be on the field for this offense to realize its potential. And I think him being in the starting lineup is part of the reason why this offense is struggling. I know he had a nice game. They were playing the Jaguars, and they were like Landry was slicing and dicing his way all day. But until they get Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills in as legitimate vertical threats, this offense can't reach its full potential.
I think that's very fair. Do you so obviously we know Devontae Parker's your bae.
He is my
do you remember the Greg Jennings Old Spice commercials?
Oh my God, they were great. So great.
Okay. That was when Greg Jennings started to suck at football.
Yeah, oh my God.
So do you think that's something to that? Do you think it's like if you make an Old Spice commercial, you suddenly become a terrible football player?
Well, yeah, didn't that happen to Wes Welker?
That did. Wasn't that the year like he just oh wow.
And then I think they stopped doing the commercial because they just all started to suck.
They saw okay, Greg Jennings, Wes Welker. There's something to that. I think okay, we'll research that further for future shows.
Hold on. I'm looking it up now. Keep talking.
All right, so Rashard Matthews, I sort of agree with you. I don't like the play this week. I think some people are going to look at his numbers through the first 2 weeks, and they're going to be tempted to use him, but 2 knocks against him. Number 1, matchup, okay? Number 2, sooner or later, you're right. They've got to give Devontae Parker a look and see what he can do to stretch the field. Even Kenny Stills was a good deep threat when he played for Drew Brees in New Orleans. I think that Matthews is a name who a lot of people are going to look at in their sleepers. You might even see him recommended in the occasional DFS article. Count me out. Not this week, anyway. Not this week. Maybe if he does it again against the Bills, then you start to talk about him, but I'm sort of off the Matthews train this week. You find anything on the Old Spice?
Yeah, it's the third one was Ray Lewis. Right before he retired.
Okay, there you go. Public service announcement to all NFL players.
Don't do Old Spice commercials. Let the professionals do. They're killing it right now. Their new commercial with the Bear Glove versus Timber is hysterical. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet, but what I will say is, you see what happens. You stop injuring NFL players, and you start to have something good.
Yeah, I mean they've always been like those commercials were great, regardless of what it did to NFL players. But they've been killing the game for a long time. Okay, the home stretch here. Are we going to do a lightning round with the tight ends? Yeah. Okay, lightning round with the tight ends. Your boy. You know, all right. I put him in. Kyle Rudolph, interesting name. Very cheap, 3,300 FanDuel. I'm sorry, 3,300 DraftKings, 5,300 FanDuel. No longer my boy for the record. What do you mean? You hate him? Yeah, well, my complaints about Rudolph notwithstanding, what do you like about him this week? He's Teddy Bridgewater's red zone guy. Period. End of discussion. 7 targets, 5 catches. I know he only had 30 yards, but this offense didn't really need to do much other than give AP the ball. And he got the red zone target, and I think he got a red zone target last week, or the week before, even though they sucked. Actually, they might not have even been in the end zone, but he's his safety valve. Because Adrian Peterson, like as much as we want him to be that pass catching running back in a Norv Turner offense, he's not. Like that's not his role. Rudolph is the safety valve because he can't get I don't know why he can't get the ball to Charles Johnson, and for some reason Mike Wallace is getting open. Yeah, right. That's actually sort of the thing is if you look at the offensive structure, what they try to do each week, one thing Rudolph will get you is catches. And that's very valuable in the PPR and half-point format, especially at this price. As you know, I'm not a fan of Rudolph. Hold on, time out. I got a tweet from one of our viewers. It's not crab stew, it's crab soup. Crab soup? There's a real crab soup? Is that like a Maryland thing that I don't know about? Yeah. It could starting to ring a bell a little bit. When you said stew, I was just like, what? No. Like, I have never heard of it.
I screwed something up there. But what's the difference? I wonder, is this like a clam chowder but with crab? Is that what it is, I wonder?
You're asking the wrong person.
Okay. Maybe that listener can let me know. I'm interested in the crab soup. I'm curious what happens when you make crab soup. Who eats it? What part of the country do they have crab soup? Fill me in on the details, people. I need to know. That said, back to Kyle Rudolph, probably not eating a whole lot of crab soup this week. Might be catching a few passes, maybe even a touchdown. Look, one thing I can tell you about Minnesota, not a lot of crabs. Okay, not a lot of crabs in Minnesota. All right, lightning round continues. Crockett Gilmore, 3,300 on DraftKings. Oh, yeah, 3,300 DraftKings, 5,400 FanDuel. Here's my gut instinct. You react to it and tell me what you think. Crockett Gilmore almost caught a touchdown in week 1. If you watch the game, Flacco lobbed it up, goal line, almost reeled it in, did not. Had a huge week 2. Here's my statement. I don't care. I'm not playing.
That's what I was going to say. But the only reason, like, he's going to be highly owned this week. I don't think he's going to – I think this Cincinnati is going to be able to stop him. But he's the number 2 option in this offense regardless. Like, there are no other options. He's not – Flacco needs to throw the ball to somebody that's going to be a safety valve for him. Steve Smith's getting older, and he's still a downfield and outside receiver anyway. Crockett Gilmore's this guy on the inside. Forsett isn't catching balls like we thought like people thought. I personally didn't think he was going to do a lot in terms of the passing game, but Kamar Aiken isn't doing much. I know he had a decent game, seven targets, 5 catches, 89 yards. Marlon Brown just disappeared when he could have been the real number 2 receiver. So without Rashad Perriman, Crockett Gilmore's the 2, and I don't think that really helps them this week, but in the future, yes, and he's going to be so highly owned this week because he had such a big game, and people are all about it when a low price tight end does something like that. But nah.
I guess one final argument in favor of him, although I'm not sold on it. If you look at so Mark Trestman is the offensive coordinator, right? As a Bears fan, I have an intimate relationship with Mark Trestman. We say goodnight to each other every evening. No, I'm very glad he's no longer here. But if you look again, if we talk about offensive scheme and what an offense is trying to do, he uses the tight end, and he uses the tight end in the seam, and he uses the tight end in the red zone. So, I mean, he's an interesting name. Keep an eye on him. I think you and I are in agreement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And
this week,
even though Steve Smith is his number 1 option, he's not his number 1 option in the red zone because he's a midget.
Right.
Am I allowed to say midget? Are we allowed to say midget anymore? I feel like we're
little people, small person.
He's a small man.
He's tinier than the average NFL player.
Correct.
Okay, that was perfectly politically correct. Slightly below average for NFL personnel.
Yep.
Maybe more than slightly. Okay. Eric Ebron, same price on DraftKings as Crockett Gilmore, cheaper on FanDuel.
Give me that Ebron.
We are totally okay. Good, we're totally in agreement here. I think Ebron's
love it.
I'm picking
because he had 5 for 43 in a score and then 4 for 53 in a score. He had the exact same score on DraftKings 2 weeks in a row. Love when that.
You know what?
Consistency.
Here's what I think about Ebron. Here's what I think about Ebron. Correct me if I'm wrong. Athletic freak coming out of school. This is what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, it happens with tight ends. They need a little bit of time.
Right.
Well, that's why Max Williams isn't the number 1 tight end in Baltimore. That's why Clive Walford hasn't beaten out Michael Rivera yet in Oakland. Like, tight ends take a little bit. That's why ASJ didn't completely break out last year. That's why Eifert didn't have a huge rookie season, and he's having it now. They need a little bit of time, and then because they're so athletic and they're so big, they're a mismatch. And once they figure out how to play in the NFL, they're going to dominate, and that's what Ebron's starting to do now.
I totally agree with you. When the Lions picked him last year, you know what I thought? I thought that's it.
Picked him over Odell. He has to do something, and he's starting.
I honestly thought that was a damn good pick when they took him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I remember I'm from New Jersey. I'm 30 minutes away from stadium, so like a lot of my friends are Giants.
They have crab soup over there on the East.
I remember texting my buddy who's a huge Giants fan the whole time. He's like, I really hope the Lions don't pick Ebron because I really want him at 12. Obviously, it worked out perfectly for them, but I just how highly valued and how desirable he was coming out of the draft. It didn't go away. He didn't lose all that. He just had a rough year. It takes a little while. Like last year was just like a gift. Like rookies don't come in and dominate the fantasy landscape like they did last year ever. And there are still guys from that amazing draft class that took a little longer. And there are always going to be guys that take a little longer out of the draft that you want them to be great in year one, but maybe not till year 2 or year 3. And this is one of those guys that's starting to get better after that. Basically, you could call it a redshirt year in the NFL.
Okay, so we're in agreement on him. We both like him. He's still cheap. And especially if you're not playing daily leagues, if you're involved in regular fantasy leagues, probably worth an ad as a tight end too. Moving along, Vernon Davis, another name who I gave you before the show, and I said, here's my first DraftKings lineup I put together. Vernon Davis was in it. My reasoning
Put Ebron in and I'll feel better.
My reasoning behind Vernon Davis was the matchup.
Yeah, that's why I put
is
him
there
in.
anything more to it than that, or what do you think?
No, that's why I put him in here. I think they're going to be down. They're playing Arizona. They're going to have to throw the ball. And last year, we talked a lot. Arizona could do everything but defend the tight end. They just couldn't do it. I think. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like that was one of the things that we really harped on last year was Arizona cannot cover the tight end. And
Right.
they forget what happened week 1, but last week Bennett had a pretty decent week, right?
Bennett did not have such a great week. But again, I think the matchup argument still stands. Bennett had a nice week going until Cutler went down.
Right. Okay. There you go.
The more important thing here, I think, is usage. I like what I've seen. San Francisco has not looked good, but I do like what I've seen them try to do with Davis. Now, as long as they keep trying that, I think they'll have some decent success this week. Already this season, he's had 8 total catches through 3 games. Last week, San Francisco was playing a lot of catch-up, but you know what? They very well could be again this week against a very good overall Arizona team. All right, lightning round continues for tight end, not so lightning. Charles Clay going up against his former team, Miami. Real cheap, 3,100 and 4,900. Is this just a revenge against your former team thing, or do we really like the
guy? I like it. I mean, I don't remember why I like it, but I don't think Miami can really defend the tight end. Oh, no, because Jordan Reed went off, and last week they didn't play anybody at tight end.
Okay, fair enough. So this is a matchup thing?
Because Julius Thomas was out. They had, now I remember, Clay Harbor, Mercedes Lewis. Let me check how many targets they got. Probably not a lot. But Jordan Reed had a great first week against them, including a touchdown. Clay and Reed are similar, but Reed's a little bit better, but Clay is always on the field. But as far as tight ends go, they had a total of Mercedes Lewis had 4 targets for 0 catches last week. So I think Miami can be beaten by tight ends, and he has a chance to get in. He's cheap. I'm not playing him in cash, but he has a chance to score 18 points, which is amazing for him in a tournament. 6-time value. That's great.
I was about to say, I think just to be clear, this is definitely a tournament recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a cash.
Okay. Next up, here's a name who I'd play over Charles Clay. Jared Cook, St. Louis, 2,800 DraftKings. Wow, that's low. 5,400. I do not like that on FanDuel. Cook is an interesting name to me because he's leading the team. He's leading the team in targets and receptions, right? I mean, how do you not play him at 2,800? What am I missing here?
Dude, he hurts. He hurts my brain. He has done this every year. He shows up the first 2 weeks, and then he just disappears for the rest of the season. I want to say that it's going to continue, but I can't confidently say that. It has a different feel this year because it's a different quarterback in Nick Foles, who does like to target the tight end. However, it's Jared Cook. I cannot trust him until he does it if he keeps doing it through week 4, fine. I'll believe in Jared Cook. But I've seen this story happen before. I can't.
Well, okay, here's an argument in favor of him as well. At home against Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh can't stop anybody. He's leading the team in targets and receptions, going up against an excellent matchup, home game. I mean, you got to like him for at least 4 to 5 catches. And if he gets in the end zone at that price, I mean, he's made your week, hasn't he? Hasn't he just made your week?
Yeah, absolutely. But the only reason that I feel okay with that is because for some reason Brian Quick still isn't on the field. If somebody could explain that to me, I would love to hear that explanation. There's no reason for Brian Quick to be inactive. He is the best wide receiver on this football team. And I don't understand why he's not playing. But
didn't he take Jeff Fisher's daughter on a date and not have her home by midnight?
Is that real? Like
is that real?
Dude, no, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised because Jeff Fisher is treating him like a child.
Here's the real thing. First, he did an Old Spice commercial, but then he compounded the problem.
No, I have to trade him in my dynasty league if he did. No.
Then he compounded the problem by having some crab soup. All right, moving right along.
That is about as legitimate of a reason as I've heard about Brian Quick not being in the lineup.
Look, what more could you ask from our show? We give you DFS values, and we break news. We get the real inside scoop.
Yes, we do.
What more could you want, okay? Last name for tonight, tight end, Green Bay Packers, Richard Rodgers.
Yeah, why is
2,500? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, why is he still that cheap? He had a touchdown last week. He's the number 1 tight end in the most explosive offense in football, other than maybe the Patriots. But it's still I'd still take Aaron Rodgers' offense over Brady. So, are you kidding? The only reason not to play him is because James Jones is apparently the tight end, the touchdown vulture of all time. Like he has actually become the ultimate, like worse than Mike Tolbert was back when he was the touchdown vulture. James Jones has 5 catches, 3 of them are for touchdowns. He had, I don't know how many targets he had last week, but he had 1 catch.
We call that a trend that is not likely to continue. Although history suggests otherwise.
This is the problem. He had 1 catch on 3 targets for 29 yards and a touchdown. Are you kidding? Like it's going to continue because he's the only one that Rodgers trusts. And I love seeing Montgomery get involved at the end of the game. I really do. But it's still, the ball is still going to go to James Jones down there. I hate it.
That's an interesting name that we should probably talk about Thursday. Is Ty Montgomery? He's going to be really interesting. Yeah. All right, well, guys, Alex, despite our technical difficulties,
we actually didn't go too far over time. I think we're at an hour 20 right now. That's not too bad.
No, that's not bad at all. We got in some talk about Old Spice, South Park.
This is one of my favorite shows that we've ever done because Mark didn't get to shut us up. This was amazing.
So this is what happens, guys. If you're out there, you're watching the show. This is what happens when Mark's not here. We just kind of talk about whatever we feel like.
Fuck it.
Well, okay. So coming up on Thursday, we're going to play a little Who's Your Bay. This is a segment that they invented.
The whole show is Who's Your Bay.
The whole show is Who's Your Bay. It's a segment that they invented and I named. I'm going to go ahead and take naming credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. It was your idea because I kept saying Bay all the time. And you're like, you might as well just name it that. I was like,
yeah, so the story behind it is when I was drafting this year for my actual fantasy year-long leagues, every time I'd text Alex, I'd say, hey, here's what I'm doing. He'd say, well, Amir Abdul is my Bay. You got to take him. You got to take him. So basically,
after like the first or second draft, when you got into like 6 or 7, I was like, you have to take Bay. Like I had numbers for each Bay.
Right.
Like, Bay number 1, which is Julio. Bay number 2 is Kelsey. Bay number 3 is Abdullah. Bay number 4 was Devontae Parker. So you knew exactly what I was talking about once I said which number Bay it was. So
I actually have a fantasy team that is called Alex Hanowitz's Girlfriends. Okay. And
it was all 4 of them, right?
It was all 4 of them. It was Julio, Kelsey, Abdullah, and Matt Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Who am I missing? I'm missing one.
Parker.
Oh, yeah, and I have Devon. Well, Parker's on the bench.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's on my bench too, but I still have him.
Right. So Thursday we're playing Who's Your Bay. Anything else? What else are we doing Thursday?
Just Who's Your Bay. All right, this is how it's gonna roll. We're gonna be late again next week because Pete has to teach, so we'll be on a little later again, like around 10:30 Eastern time, which is a little later in the game. Probably kind of sucks for me because I won't be able to watch the end of the game. But the first half is going to be cash Who's Your Bay, and the second half is going to be tournament Who's Your Bay. So how we do it is we pick a player that we're kind of either divided on or really want to talk about, and like show how much value we have. We're going to go plus or minus 1,000 on that player, and we're going to do that for a little bit on each player. Probably get 1 or 2 players at each position for cash and for tournaments. So we will see you guys on Thursday night with that.
Right. And also, Alex, real quick, if you guys have anybody you want us to talk about in Who's Your Bay, you can tweet us at Alex Hanowitz. It's in our Google Hangout names, at P. Karaganis. If you have anybody you want us to talk about on Who Your Bay, send us a tweet.
Tweet at Mark. I'll just make him tell me all the questions that he asked while he's on vacation, so he gets cranky, because it's fun to make him cranky.
He's gonna watch this show and he's never gonna go on vacation again.
I think every 10 minutes I mentioned how Mark wasn't on the show and I was just fucking around.
Right. He's never gonna let us do this again.
Never. I hope he waits to watch this until he gets back from vacation, because he will come home from vacation on Thursday to do the show just so this doesn't happen again.
All right. For Alex Hanowitz, myself, Pete Karaganis, we will see you guys Thursday night. Again, it'll be a little later, about 10:30 Eastern. We will see you then. Have a great week.
Good luck starting. We'll help you finish up on Thursday. Good night, everybody.